On April 4, 2012, the Miami Marlins faced the St. Louis Cardinals in the newly constructed Marlins Stadium. The stadium was thought to bring economic improvement to the city and help the area around the facility. With such a small crowd, the franchise was unable to produce enough revenue to achieve their goal. This low attendance ended up creating some problems for the team as well as the city.
If you build it, be prepared to shut down the upper deck if the fans don't show up. The Miami Marlins are so bad in light of a meager payroll and a 10-24 record, they are closing down the upper deck of their stadium, Marlins Park, at least for a few upcoming games, because so few people are coming to the games and the empty seats look so bad. They average about 17,000 attendance per game. At $35 million, their payroll is just $6 million more than A-Rod makes for the Yankees every year, and he's inactive this season. The Marlins say the closure will make for a better fan experience.
So the real question is, are baseball stadiums beneficial to a city's economy, or are they a waste of taxpayer money? In the past, constructing new stadiums has been very controversial. To use taxpayer money to pay for these facilities for baseball franchises is highly debated. Teams do not have enough money to pay for these expensive projects and ask local and state governments, who rely on taxpayers, to pay for their new facilities. But taxpayers are becoming more aware of the problem, but do little to solve it. The new Marlins Stadium cost taxpayers $634 million, and very few people attended the game in the stadium that they helped pay for.
Modern version of a baseball stadium essentially is a baseball field, the stands, a shopping center, and then acres of parking to make certain that no one can ever go anywhere else.
Marlins Stadium is a good representation of how a stadium is able to utilize space effectively. Not only does it have parking lots surrounding the park, but there is also a nearby highway that prevents fans from purchasing concessions anywhere but in the stadium. Baseball stadiums do not contribute significantly to the economy, though. Most revenue is gained through ticket sales, broadcasting fees, concession sales, and parking fees. But with low attendance on opening day, the Marlins were unable to profit from very little ticket sales, which resulted in smaller concession sales and parking fees. Even with a large crowd, the Marlins would have only been able to match the cost of the stadium with no profit. The problem with generating a large crowd is that, although society puts an emphasis on sports, professional sports are local. People cannot go to a game if they live hours away from the stadium. Therefore, teams rely on local fans to attend games. This is one reason behind low attendance. Another is that more people watch professional sports on television, in the comfort of their own home where a front row seat is free.
Baseball and football stadiums, however, there aren't any that have been substantially subsidized where the local community has received anything remotely resembling a reasonable return on investment. They are financial black holes.
Even with the proof that baseball stadiums do not support an increase in the economy, governments are still hopeful. Cities try everything to keep a team, including paying for upgrades or entirely new facilities. In Miami, the government paid for fancy new upgrades to attract a larger crowd, including a fish tank behind home plate that created tension between the Marlins and animal rights activists. Improving or constructing new stadiums are thought to attract attention to a city, including tourism and publicity, especially in the case of a World Series winning team. They are also thought to develop the area surrounding the stadium, produce more jobs, and improve the overall economy. When a baseball stadium is completed, most jobs that are created are low-paying, part-time work that is not the sole income of the employee. And considering a stadium is only open for about 81 days a year, the work is seasonal, and the revenue generated from the stadium is not a consistent source of revenue for the city. The high-paying jobs, however, typically go to the players or executives that do not reinvest their earnings in the local economy. There is hope, however, as Oriole Park at Camden Yards did improve the economy. When the Colts left the Orioles alone in a dual-purpose stadium, the Orioles tried to find somewhere to build a more useful facility. It was decided that Camden Yards was the best location due to its proximity to Washington and Baltimore. The area immediately surrounding the stadium developed, and the facility brought $170 million per year in economic activity, and returned an average of $9.8 million in rent and entertainment taxes. Although governments hope for the success, most stadiums are not able to benefit the economy significantly.
We first met David Sampson in October of 2010, while the ballpark was still under construction. Back then, many in Miami were already incensed at the amount of money that the public was putting into the stadium.
This is simply a bad deal for the county and its taxpayers.
And at the way Sampson and the Marlins had strong-armed the city to get it, threatening to leave if they didn't get their way.
The Florida Marlins asked for and received permission from Major League Baseball to explore relocation.
You're a private business. If you really need it, why don't you build it for yourself?
For the simple reason that we can't build it ourselves.
I thought that they were hiding something. And
Carlos Jimenez was a county commissioner when we spoke with him almost 3 years ago. Back then, he said he didn't believe that the Marlins were as financially strapped as they claimed and wanted proof.
it only makes sense for any kind of business deal that I take a look at the books.
Among the questions they asked was, can we see your books? You said no.
Right.
Why didn't you just open the books? Why
Because-
isn't that easier?
Because in Major League Baseball history, books are just kept private. That's just how it is.
Commissioner Jimenez continued to voice his concern right on through the night of the final vote.
But they're not willing to give us their financials. Maybe they have more money than they're telling us, and they're able to contribute more into this deal than they're letting on.
But he wound up in the minority,
Motion passes.
and the Marlins got their ballpark. Miami-Dade County would foot roughly 70% of the bill, and the Marlins would pay a token rent and rake in all the profits.
Ground is broken.
With so many different productive outlets like schools, hospitals, and better roads, there's a feeling that taxpayer money should be used for more impactful things. Stadiums bring publicity and income to a local economy, but the pros are outweighed by the cons. Attendance is decreasing along with baseball's reigning popularity. The days of sold-out seasons are over. With instant replays and other new technological advances, fans and spectators find it easier to watch games from home. Stadiums have been proven to have limited economic benefits to a community, and the funds are better spent improving a city's infrastructure. The Marlins did everything to attract crowds, including paying for an extremely expensive stadium. And this is just one example of how stadiums are unable to provide the economic benefit they hope for. The new home of the Miami Marlins was supposed to prosper, yet was unable to fill all its seats on opening day, and therefore demonstrates how baseball stadiums do not contribute to local economies.